It was a quiet Thursday afternoon in a small Arizona town when Officer Daniels saw the motorcycle fly past the speed limit sign at nearly 70 in a 45 zone. The bike was loud, black, and the rider wore a plain army green jacket with no plates on the back. That was enough for Daniels to flip on his lights and pull out behind him. Got a biker, no tag speeding. Pulling him over now, he radioed in, already annoyed. The town didn't get much action, and he was itching to make a solid bust today. The motorcycle came to a slow stop near an old gas station just outside town. The rider took off his helmet, revealing a young man in his late 20s with sharp eyes and a clean-cut jaw. He didn't look scared. In fact, he looked calm too. Calm Daniels stepped out. License and registration. The biker didn't reach for anything. Sir, I suggest you call your supervisor. Daniels frowned. Excuse me, I'm asking respectfully. Call your supervisor. The biker's tone was firm but not rude. Daniels didn't like being challenged, especially by some guy on a bike with no visible ID. Within seconds, backup arrived. Two more patrol cars pulled in, and another officer joined Daniels. Let's go, buddy. Hands where we can see them. The biker didn't resist. He put his hands up but repeated the same words. You're making a mistake. Just call your supervisor. Right now, tension rose. Locals began to gather, filming from their phones. Daniels decided he'd had enough turnaround. Hands behind your back, and just as the cuffs clicked shut around the biker's wrists, the ground began to rumble. It started faintly like distant thunder, but grew louder with each second. Then came the unmistakable sound of military Humvees, one after another, rolling down the highway. Not one, not five, but a convoy nearly 50 vehicles strong, closing in fast. Daniels froze. The biker looked him straight in the eyes and said, "That's my ride." And leading the pack was a high-ranking Army captain, standing tall through the roof hatch, his eyes locked on the scene unfolding ahead. The lead Humvee screeched to a stop just feet away from the police cruisers. Dust kicked up, swirling around as the rest of the convoy followed, forming a wall of military presence. Soldiers in full gear poured out, moving with speed and precision. Locals who had been filming slowly stepped back, eyes wide, phones still raised from the lead vehicle. A man in a captain's uniform stepped down. His boots hit the pavement with weight. Captain Eric Dawson, lean, composed, and radiating command, marched straight toward Officer Daniels without saying a word. Daniels instinctively loosened his grip on the biker, suddenly unsure of everything. "Can I help you, Sir Captain?" Dawson didn't flinch. "You're holding a U.S. Army asset. On what grounds?" Daniels cleared his throat, his voice dry. "He was speeding, no plates, refused ID. He asked for a supervisor." The captain turned to the biker, still in cuffs. "You okay, Lieutenant?" The biker nodded. "Yes, sir, just doing what protocol said. I requested they contact higher authority." They didn't listen. Dawson turned back, jaw clenched. "Lieutenant Mason is part of an ongoing classified operation involving joint forces. He's not just some guy on a bike. He's under direct command, unauthorized movement. Your officers detained him unlawfully and refused proper protocol." Daniels looked stunned. "We didn't know there were no tags. He didn't identify himself." "You didn't ask." The captain cut in, sharp, and when he calmly requested a supervisor, you ignored him. "That's not just reckless, it's dangerous." Behind them, the soldiers remained still, watching like statues. Their presence alone shifted the entire energy of the scene. Local onlookers could feel the tension turn cold. "Remove the cuffs," Dawson ordered. Daniels hesitated, then fumbled with the keys. As the cuffs clicked open, Mason rolled his shoulders and gave Daniels a simple level stare. It could have been a conversation. "You made it a confrontation." Dawson stepped closer, voice low. "Lieutenant Mason has been under surveillance for threats tied to national security. He was en route to an extraction point. That delay, it compromised timing." Daniels stammered. "We didn't mean intent doesn't erase impact," Dawson said. And then sirens, but not police. Something else was coming. The new sirens sliced through the air, shriller and more urgent than the local cruisers. In the distance, three black SUVs approached fast, tires screeching as they pulled up behind the last Humvees. The doors flew open, and out stepped men in black suits, Secret Service agents. Every head turned. Even Captain Dawson stiffened. One of the agents, a tall man with an earpiece and a badge clipped to his jacket, walked straight toward Dawson and Mason. Captain Dawson. Lieutenant Mason, we need you both now. Dawson's eyes narrowed. You're early. The agent nodded. Plans changed. We picked up chatter. Someone leaked the route. The delay here may have been what exposed it. Daniels and the other officers stood frozen, completely out of their depth now. What had started as a basic traffic stop had turned into a live scene from a military thriller. Mason nodded once. Understood. What's the extraction point now? We move 2 blocks west. Helicopter inbound in less than 5 minutes. Be ready, the agent said, then glanced coldly at Daniels and make sure no one interferes again. The agents moved swiftly, coordinating with the soldiers. Dawson turned back to the officers, his voice controlled but sharp. You're lucky this didn't go sideways. You stopped a high-value operative minutes before his pickup. If this had been hostile ground, he wouldn't have waited for cuffs. Daniels couldn't speak. The weight of what had just happened was finally sinking in. He looked around and noticed the bystanders still filming. The entire town would know about this before sundown. Mason put his helmet back on and threw one final glance over his shoulder. No hard feelings, officer. Just next time listen. And with that, he climbed into one of the Humvees. The convoy adjusted formation, and the 3 black SUVs moved to the front. The roar of rotor blades now echoed overhead, a Black Hawk descending from the clouds. As the helicopter touched down in an empty field nearby, dust spiraled like a storm. Soldiers covered their faces, guiding Mason and the captain toward the aircraft. But just before Mason boarded, Dawson's phone buzzed. He checked it, then froze. His eyes shot toward the tree line across the road. "Everyone down!" he yelled. Gunfire erupted. The first bullet slammed into the side of a Humvee, sparking off the armored door. Soldiers instantly dove for cover, weapons drawn, eyes scanning the tree line. Screams rang out from nearby civilians as they scrambled behind parked cars and storefronts. Officer Daniels hit the ground hard, heart pounding in his ears. And this had spiraled way beyond his pay grade. Captain Dawson pulled Mason down behind a barricade of sandbags, quickly deployed from one of the vehicles. "We're exposed. Return fire only if you have a clear shot," he barked. Secret Service agents shielded the SUV, their weapons trained outward, moving with trained efficiency. From the woods, muzzle flashes lit up the shadows, coordinated, trained. This wasn't random gunfire. This was an ambush. Dawson shouted into his radio. "Eagle 1 is hot." I repeat, we are under fire, initiating emergency extraction. Above, the Black Hawk hovered, its crew scanning the ground. The door gunner swung his weapon toward the tree line, waiting for confirmation. Mason, crouched beside Dawson, reached for a sidearm and nodded. "We've got maybe 60 seconds. I'll move on your signal." "No," Dawson snapped. "You're the objective. You're not moving unless I say." But Mason's eyes locked onto a young soldier nearby, pinned behind a Humvee, bleeding from his leg, exposed. Without waiting, Mason broke cover, sprinting through the chaos. Bullets zipped past as he slid in beside the wounded man. "You're gonna be okay," he said, dragging him to safety with sheer force. The moment they reached cover, a burst of rounds struck exactly where the soldier had been lying seconds ago. The helicopter began lowering a rope ladder, rotors thundering. "Now! Move!" An agent screamed. Dawson grabbed Mason and shoved him toward the rope. "Get on, that's an order." Mason hesitated just a moment, then climbed. As he ascended, Dawson turned to Daniels, crouched behind his cruiser. "You still think this was about a speeding ticket?" Daniels shook his head, wide-eyed. "What the hell is going on?" Dawson gave him a look that said more than words could. "Welcome to the part of the world you don't get to see." Within seconds, Mason was airborne, rising above the scene, while soldiers laid down covering fire. The convoy reversed, forming a defensive perimeter, as the remaining threats scattered into the woods. As silence finally settled, one thing was clear: this town would never forget the day they stopped the wrong bike.